This comes from a longtime fan of the whole Dragon Ball franchise. Not just the series, not just the manga, but also the games. And I don't mean, yeah, I used to play Budokai Tenkaichi 3 with my friends, or, I actually like Raging Blast more type of fan. I genuinely played most of the available Dragon Ball games, coming from Shenlong no Nazo up to now. We're talking not only Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi, but also stuff like Taiketsu, Final Bout, the Super Butoden trilogy, Hyper Dimension, and like VR Versus for crying out loud. I genuinely played and completed a lot of the games a lot of people don't even acknowledge their existence about. And that's not to say that my word has to be taken to a higher level than someone who started from, say, the Xenoverse games, but just to put you what perspective this video is coming from. I'm someone who's still very fond of Dragon Ball, which is why I also have to state that I will always be grateful to Akira Toriyama and the staff of Toei Animation for presenting me to a universe that will always have a special place. One more thing, I'm currently sitting at Z rank in single battles and S rank in DP battles, more than 100 hours in, and all the achievements unlocked, so of course I have my fair share of playtime in this game as well. I will start talking about the game as a single player experience, then a casual multiplayer experience, and finally the competitive side, with multiple comparisons to Raging Blast and mostly the older Tenkaichi games. With that being said, let's start with the video.
It's me, Goku!
When you boot up the game for the first time, it begins with a Goku vs Vegeta fight that turns into a tutorial that briefly explains you the mechanics you're going to learn in game, which then leads to the actual game menu with all the options and game modes. While the menu settings with Goku going in places and every place has unique animation for every setting is gorgeous to look at, I already have a few minor gripes to start with. The menu is very slow to navigate, and a lot of game modes names are kinda confusing. I still forget what's the training mode or the tutorial because they have very similar names. You might read the descriptions first, but still, it's not immediate, and whenever you get to navigate between different parts of the menu, you have to wait for the animation to load for every part of the menu, which gets stale after a while, especially if you're planning to stick with the game. Even the controls names are confusing. Standard and classic controls are such vague ways to say which is which. Just say something like modern and classic, like Street Fighter 6 did. One of the things I like the most without hesitation is the characters' models and transformations. Shintani's style fits so well with this game and its animation. They look so good with the flow this game wants to give you. I love Frieza's transformation from first to third form. I love how Gogeta's Super Saiyan's rush looks so much like the movie, and I love all the touches here and there that give more heart to the game than it needs to, like Bojak's ultimate attack having a reference to the movie when it couldn't just been a big blast attack. It might not be always top-notch level with all the characters, but at its best, it's just so great. If you're a fan, you know there's a lot of love and heart behind these subtleties. That being said, I still want to address some issues on a gameplay perspective, even though I think it's mostly because the audio design doesn't really stand up for the animations given. Like, this is a charged attack in BT3, and this is a charged attack in Sparking Zero. This is a rush combo in BT3, and this is a rush combo in SZ. This is an ult in BT3. And this is an ult in SZ. Sparking Zero has undeniably better looks and animations, but lacks impact? And it's weird because Sparking Zero really has a lot of effort in the animation department with the use of impact frames that really want to give out that big hit, but somehow still lacks something. And personally, as I stated before, it's more on the audio department, which might sound as a minor issue, but these games really rely a lot on audio cues to make you understand what's going on. So I just know that it can become an issue, and even an important one at that. But that being said, I think it's time to move on to one of the already more discussed parts of the game, which is the story. By selecting episode battle, we can play as 8 different characters and play the story as their POV with branching paths and what ifs that always were some of the most interesting parts in Tenkaichi storylines. But let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Sparking Zero's canon story is very sad and dry, with a lot left to be desired, mainly because of the cutscenes being still images, and even if no one with a brain cell would pretend Kakarot's level of dedication for the cutscenes, because that's literally all the game have to offer. There were dialogues and natural story progression since Tenkaichi 1. I'm not saying I'm pretending even Tenkaichi 2's level of story mode, but even Tenkaichi 3 that cuts a lot of stuff that still covers most of the story the cast is presented with, and if not, you could get some out from what ifs in those same battles. I will say though, I really enjoyed what ifs, especially most of the ones leading to the sparking episodes. Gohan and Trunks might have my personal favorites, and Frieza is the one with the most interesting branching paths, honestly. What really disappointed me was how dirty they done Vegeta and Piccolo. Vegeta might have a good sparking episode, but there's absolutely no reason for his story to end with the Buu saga. I genuinely hoped for a what if where Vegeta actually takes the win against Golden Frieza, but they stopped his story in Z. Piccolo just takes the coach role even in his story branching paths. Genuinely, he has no glory moments. Goku is great, but of course it's literally Goku. Black instead might be the poorest one yet, and Jiren is actually okayish. Overall, I won't say the story mode is bad, but I'd say it's underwhelming, which sucks since some parts are actually great.
この世界チャンピオンである
Let's talk about a returning mode that made me happy the first time I saw it. Tournaments. On paper it's nothing special, it's just getting a character and a specific rule set for that specific tournament, and you pick your character and go against other characters. You rank up aiming for the champion title and that's it. But what made them special for a lot of people is them organizing tournaments with friends, like you're united in a group or wanting to throw hands in DB, so tournaments were always a great solution. This mode is also implemented in online play, which actually enhances this whole thing, so I'm good with it. Here there are only 2 things that throw me off. While having new tournament modes such as Tournament of Power is welcome and refreshing, there are some tournament modes that genuinely don't have a reason to stay there, like the Tournament of Destroyers, which is the tournament involving Universe 6 versus Universe 7. I don't know why they got it when we don't have the stage for it in the first place. We have the Tenkaichi Budokai stage, we have the Cell Games Arena, we have the Tournament of Power Arena, so they make sense, but this one really doesn't. This also applies to the other World Tournament. Like Tenkaichi 3 did not have the stage as well, but it was never the same stage. It always changed, which at least made up for the lack of it by trying to add its own flavor. But here it feels like being put there just for the sake of it. We had different announcers and different display art for every tournament, which, as a kid, helped me immerse more in the tone of the tournament, with the tracks and everything back at it all. Oh, and talking about soundtracks, this might be my greatest disappointment with this game. I won't talk about Raging Blast 2 or Budokai games because they had Yamamoto behind them, who was accused of plagiarism, but Tenkaichi 2 and 3 had Takanori Arima behind them, who now works in a team that worked for the Fighter soundtrack. If you know, you know. These games had insanely good soundtracks. Don't get me wrong, Sparking Zero is not by itself a bad score, but it feels so generic and soulless compared to previous works.
Where do you think you're going?
The last big thing I have to talk about is the custom battle system, which Bandai Namco hyped up so much, and I really don't understand why. This whole thing has potential, but its options are actually very limited, and also the terrible UI does not help with keeping people interested in creating them. As a result, most of the stuff you come across is memes, cheap and interesting fights with some spark of ideas here and there, but you gotta dig to find them. It's a shame because there are some people who actually put the effort into those, but the algorithm does not care. and would always show you most of the dumb stuff first.
You're pretty good!
There's still a lot to go, but I want to wrap up the whole single player part because what remains can be said very quickly. The tutorial system is straight up atrocious because it's a nightmare to navigate in and it doesn't explain well how all the mechanics work. The Dragon Ball system works different from searching the Dragon Balls in stages during story fights, but I don't mind as long as it's not the Porunga grind, you know? And the single player battle mode works fine. AI gets predictable quickly even at the highest difficulties and it's inconsistent with the aggro, but I think most players will be able to get along with it just fine. Right? Overall, I think Sparking Zero as a single-player experience might not be the most content-dense experience out of Dragon Ball games, but it still has its fair share. People who are interested in this game just for its single-player content can get at least 12 up to 15 hours and can go up to 30, which for an arena fighter is actually really good. You can see there was heart put into this game with the special interaction, the special throws and the encyclopedia with the girl talk option, but I still miss stuff like a lot of outfits are not here and alternate colors aren't a thing anymore, which sucks because it really isn't hard to put on characters and are great to have for both character distinction reasons and just for the sake of customization. But now that we have talked about the single player, it's time to move on to the actual controversial part of the game.
I am unbeatable.
Let's address something real quick. The netcode is bad. But you have to understand you can't just straight up ask for a rollback on a game like this for one very simple reason. It will be extremely complicated because of how rollback works in the first place. The name rollback comes from the fact that this system predicts the options the players will do in order to get a more immediate response. If the choice doesn't align with the prediction, the game rolls back the frames until the accurate answer is shown. Tekken 8 having a rollback is already a miracle because of how many options some player might choose compared to 2D fighters that just move on a bidimensional space. A fighter arena has many more options, much more space for free movement of any kind. How do we expect a rollback netcode to perfectly predict all of this flawlessly, without an insane investment on just that? Even though the actual netcode is bad, you have to understand that asking for rollback on an arena fighter is a huge feat by itself. It might happen in the future, but now it's just too soon, I think. What we can ask for though is crossplay. With the player base shrinking, it's crucial for the game's lifespan to be able to play against people on all platforms, especially the Xbox players who have the tiniest player base by far. There's a little bit of hope for that, but it's already been said it's not gonna be easy. But you know what could be easy to fix? Once again, the menus. I know it's redundant at this point, but why should I have to create a room all over again because I can't change the game mode, the playtime, and the number of players on the spot? This is unacceptable, and it's also an easy thing to fix. Please do so. At this point, I should talk about the whole situation about the rank system, the dramatic showdown, but here's the thing. Since I started this video, a huge patch released, addressing a lot of issues regarding giants, androids, instant sparking, and so on. We can talk about competitive deathmatch right now, since the game changed a lot after this patch, and we can talk about the DP health bug, rage quits, and the paralysis cheese because those have been addressed as well. Because of this, I had to rewrite this section, but some stuff still needs to be addressed, mainly the tournament situation. Let's take a step back first. Tenkaichi 3 at higher levels is highly focused on movement, especially flanking, which makes this game highly aggressive and entertaining to watch and play. The deeper you dig, the more you understand how many layers there are behind even the simplest of things. Positioning is key. Raging Blast 2 on the other hand has insane combo play, with a lot of cancels that give you frame advantage, so the defense is more on the vanishes rather than the Z counter. Sparking Zero is very defensive, having tons of counters and defensive options that can get you out of any situation if you're good enough. Hell, you even have counters on counters. The game in its actual state is very comparable to the Smash phenomenon. Melee's tournament rules are shaped through hundreds and hundreds of tournaments that kept the game interesting and entertaining as of nowadays. If this works, it's because who makes the tournaments know how the game is and what are the issues that might make it boring and unplayable. The staff making the rule set for the Sparking Zero tournament absolutely does not know the very first thing about this game. They've already made plenty of inexcusable moves because their rule set allows for stuff like this to happen, and for some reason it has to be the player's fault. Like why?
I don't care if this sucks to watch. This sucks to watch because your rules allow it in the first place. And let's not talk about the fact that if it happens off screen it's okay, because we don't make a bad figure in front of thousands of people, right? You don't know what happened in the French Grand Finals, you know? Who knows that? Don't get me wrong. If I'm harsh on this game, it's because I love it. I grew up with this kind of combat system, and being able to see a new one come out after so much time made me so happy. There's love and passion in this project, but I also understand what it means making a game of this kind by scratch after so many years. You can't just get the Think 83 base and make another game on top of that. It doesn't work like that. You have to do it all over again. Great expectations are asked from you when doing so, and let's be honest, people have genuinely no idea how game dev works. But this shouldn't let them not form their own opinions with the tools they have. If the players are unhappy, it's not because the game is inherently bad, it's because they want it to shine all the way in. Sure, there will still be people complaining, because there always is, but this game has more than a reason for this situation to exist in the first place. In conclusion, the game is good, but there's a lot to be addressed, especially when you want to sink your teeth into it. This is Solar, I hope you enjoyed the video, and cut!